I have cancer. But my boyfriend doesn't know. He once gave up his dream college for me. He also abandoned me, injured at a crash scene, to rush toward another woman. I died on the day he set off fireworks overseas with his secretary. The same day I learned about the tumor in my brain. Ethan proposed to me. My mind spun. Had he discovered everything? Before I could hesitate for 30 seconds, he stood up, pocketed the ring box, and glanced at me coldly. Forget your parents' demands if you disagree. My chest tightened. Of course. He always loved cruel jokes. He probably thought I'd manipulated my parents to pressure him into marriage. Hence this humiliating proposal. I quietly lowered my outstretched hand and smiled. What if I said yes? Would you marry me? He held my gaze silently. The answer couldn't be clearer. Honestly, it stung. If you won't marry me now, you'll never get another chance. I muttered, blinking back tears. Ethan shrugged off his coat, a faint smirk playing on his lips. You really believe that? He was always right. I wouldn't live to see that day. That night, I sat blankly on the bed. Ethan closed his laptop, massaged his eyes, and slid under the covers. His back faced me as always, the gap between us wide enough for a pillow. Sleeping positions don't lie. Even after 8 years, he still couldn't stand sharing a bed. Shamelessly, I'd wait until he slept to press against his warm back, wrapping my arms around his waist. Our first time happened because I begged. I was 20. Rain hammered the windows that day, the air thick with damp chill. I removed my jacket and approached him, then hugged him. He stood frozen. His waist beneath the white shirt felt startlingly slender, his skin fever hot against mine. Trembling with shame, I thought I'd die if he rejected me. Tilting my tear-streaked face up, I forced a smile. He stared icily, poised to shove me away. My shaking fingers fumbled with his buttons, legs nearly buckling. What are you doing? He asked. Before I could stammer, he kissed me, a bitter mix of tears and his faint alcohol breath. Pathetic. You can't even seduce properly. His girlfriend had cheated. I seized his vulnerable moment, becoming the clingy burden he couldn't shake. In the pitch darkness, I stared at the faint outline of the chandelier on the ceiling. Approaching death might bring unexpected peace. I realized. All those years chasing unrequited love, all those heart-wrenching relationships, none mattered compared to seeing tomorrow's sunrise. When dawn light touched my face the next morning, I blinked in confusion. The doctor said the tumor pressing against my optic nerve caused delayed focus. Ethan leaned against the headboard reading Forbes. On past weekends, I'd cling to him like an octopus during lazy mornings. My body still gravitated toward him unconsciously. He glanced down. Awake? Good morning. I smiled. His gaze lingered on my shoulder. You stayed unusually still last night. I kept smiling. He suddenly frowned. What were you muttering in your sleep? Touching my damp cheeks. I realized I'd cried. To distract him, I sat up earnestly. I dreamed of Norway snowfields and auroras. Could we go? My voice trembled with hope. No time. He dismissed. I swallowed my disappointment. Okay. My muted reaction made him glance sideways. Maybe March next year, he offered offhandedly. I nodded. There might still be time. The truth was, I'd dreamed of 12-year-old Ethan. He used to be different, the brother who ate my leftovers without complaint when I was picky. Unlike the man who now avoided sharing water glasses. The protector who fought bullies messing with my homework. Saving me from childhood loneliness. When Mom died and I sobbed no one wants me, he'd stayed all night repeating that's not true, ignoring his swollen jaw from toothache. Later, when I confessed feelings and threw myself at him, he'd called me desperate. At his office, Zoe intercepted me with polite detachment. The CFO's in a meeting. Please wait. The spare phone buzzed in my hand. Caller ID 11. How intimate. He'd only ever called me Ivy sternly. Never the pet names Mom intended when naming me for a carefree life. The brain cancer diagnosis at 29 betrayed that wish anyway. Our family's cursed mom, aunt, great-grandma all died young from tumors. Sunlight through the windows blurred. I blinked until the modern skyscraper lobby sharpened, counting breaths until vision cleared. Zoe Zhao was Ethan Lucas's college classmate and later became his secretary after graduation. She handled every aspect of Ethan's life. The time they spent together daily far exceeded what Ivy ever had with him. What bothered Ivy was their past relationship during university years. Though brief, it remained a splinter in her heart. Within their shared social circle, everyone saw Ivy as the possessive girlfriend who petulantly guarded Ethan from any female company. Yet Ivy dared not suggest firing Zoe. Ivy still vividly remembers how bitterly Ethan resisted breaking up with Zoe back then. He'd looked at her with hollow eyes she'd never seen before. Rasping, "Will you always use my parents against me?" For a moment Ivy thought she saw tears glinting. Was his devotion that strong? That confrontation left her stunned. Ethan had always been reserved. Yet she'd never witnessed him cherish anyone like this. The old Ivy might have waited stubbornly outside his meeting room to flaunt their relationship before Zoe. But this time, she simply handed Zoe the backup phone. "Return this to Ethan after the session," she instructed before walking away. Surprise flickered across Zoe's face. The Lucas family had moved back to their quiet ancestral home after retirement. Ivy visited them monthly, though Ethan always resisted joining. "My parents always preferred you over me anyway," he remarked absently while reviewing contracts. "You're enough." Ivy's mother had been unmarried when she conceived her. After her death, the Lucases raised her, Mrs. Lucas being her mother's best friend. Grateful, Ivy perfected being the obedient girl. Eager to please everyone, auntie, uncle, Ethan. The tension between Ethan and his parents? Much of it stemmed from Ivy. He never realized she was the charity case here. When young Ethan defied his parents over dating Zoe, they presented evidence of her being kept by older men. She had no choice. He'd insisted. Mrs. Lucas finally snapped, pointing at Ivy. "If you must chase trash, why not Ivy? At least she's decent." Ethan had smiled coldly. "Since you adore her so much, you marry her." Shaking off the memory, Ivy coaxed. "They'd love us coming together. As long as you're happy," he replied tonelessly. Ivy relented. After watching him work a moment longer, she grabbed her purse. "There's congee in the kitchen. Drive safe," he said without looking up. The 3-hour drive to the Lucas estate passed smoothly. Ivy's cheerful banter soon had the elderly couple laughing. She helped Mrs. Lucas till soil for radish seeds and trellised pea shoots. Exhausted, she dozed off at the garden stone table. Ivy awoke at dusk wrapped in Mr. Lucas's jacket. Mosquito bites peppering her arms. The sunset blazed warmly. During farewells, Mrs. Lucas urged, "Take care of our Ethan." "Of course." Mr. Lucas studied her. "You look pale. Take care of yourself too." Sometimes the simplest kindness unlocks tears. With a forced smile, I blinked back tears and promised, "I'll stop staying up late." On the drive home, I realized I might need to give up driving alone soon. These migraines were becoming alarmingly frequent. Logan Luo, my neurologist, suggested hospitalization. The episodes could escalate to daily occurrences. He warned, and some patients develop persistent seizures. I shook my head. By that stage, I'd have ended things myself. "You know I can't handle prolonged suffering." He studied me for a long moment before sighing in resignation. Since I couldn't drive, Logan insisted on taking me home. At a red light, His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. He still doesn't know? The unspoken he hung between us, Ethan. I nodded, staring at my hands. I haven't found the right words. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. I can't imagine how he'll react. My bitter laugh startled us both. He'll probably throw a celebration for his newfound freedom. Ethan's greatest regret will always be hooking up with me sophomore year. Logan snorted. You mean when I lied about us sleeping together? That borrowed shirt of yours hanging in my dorm really sold it. The memory twisted my stomach. He was furious about his parents forcing him to break up with Zoe. Dusk painted the sky purple as we passed the basketball courts. Young men shouted, their sneakers squeaking against asphalt. Stop the car. I blurted. Let's watch you play. Me? I haven't touched a basketball since med school. Logan protested but eventually rolled up his sleeves. His gangly limbs found rhythm quickly, sinking a three-pointer that made me cheer. As he wiped sweat from his brow, my smile froze. Across the court stood Ethan in his work shirt. Sleeves rolled to reveal the jagged scar snaking up his forearm, the remnant of shattered windshield glass that had stolen his pitching career in basic motor skills. The game ended with Logan high-fiving teenagers. Where's my Gatorade? He panted. My empty water bottle crinkled in my hands. Let's grab some. Ethan had vanished. That night, the king-sized bed felt cavernous. Ethan's shampoo lingered in the dark as we lay back to back, the silence thicker than our down comforter. The next morning, Zoe materialized during our weekend plans, coughing into her sleeve. The amusement park project needs her input, Ethan explained tersely. We walked in strained silence until his brow furrowed. You're sick. Why didn't you say something? Zoe Zhao had been battling a cold for days, thinking medication would suffice. She'd been caught off guard when the wind worsened her condition after they stepped outside. Ethan removed his coat and handed it to her. Zoe wrapped herself tightly in the garment. Thanks for your concern, boss. The overcast sky unleashed relentless gusts that stung their cheeks raw. Ethan found a cafe, though only the entrance seating remained available during lunch rush. He motioned for her to take the wall-side seat sheltered from drafts. A sudden wave of dizziness hit Ivy as cold air seared her lungs. Her legs buckled, fingers instinctively clutching Ethan's forearm. He glanced down with detached amusement. Falling ill too? Ivy steadied herself, releasing his arm. Skipped breakfast. Low blood sugar. When Ivy excused herself to the restroom, he merely grunted acknowledgement. Turning away, Ivy inhaled sharply as stabbing pain behind her eyes intensified. Warmth trickled from her nostrils. Patrons gasped as she hurried past. Hand clamped over her bleeding nose. Locked in a bathroom stall, Ivy vomited violently into the toilet bowl between unsuccessful calls to Logan. The acidic burn in her throat gradually subsided along with the migraine, splashing cold water on her face. She slipped out through the cafe's side exit. Returning, Ivy found Zoe coughing violently with Ethan's palm circling her back. Her eyes suddenly stung with unshed tears. Probably jealousy. Placing expectorants and cough syrup before her, she explained. The pharmacist recommended these. Thank you, Ivy, Zoe said, surprised. Ethan's attention never wavered from her. You look unwell yourself, Zoe unexpectedly noted. Only then did Ethan's assessing gaze shift to Ivy. Upset stomach, Ivy lied. We'll leave after snacks, he decided. In the car, Logan's callback came. Sorry. Got chewed out by the department head. What's wrong? Just stomach issues, Ivy murmured, watching Ethan's reflection. It's fine now. Logan paused. We'll talk later. Ivy smiled faintly at his perceptiveness. Ethan glanced at Zoe. Let's get you to the clinic for 4 fluids. As they drove off after dropping Ivy at the intersection, she wondered if her impending death would make Ethan regret his indifference. Then immediately chided herself, this secrecy was her own choice. Through the rear window. Zoe mouthed an apology Ivy no longer cared to interpret. The car drove off quickly. I stood there for a moment before hailing another taxi. Instead of going home, I bought a 6-pack at a convenience store and headed to the riverside, drinking beer by the chilly river breeze. I only finished half a can, holding the rest while wrapped in a shawl I'd bought from a nearby boutique to combat the cold. Logan once asked why I hadn't told my family about my illness. I'd cared for my mother until her death. My last memories of her were skeletal limbs and collapsed veins where IVs couldn't penetrate, dark clouds haunting my midnight thoughts. I refused to let my death become that. Better they remember me healthy than witness decay. Later, Logan could tell them modern medicine made it quick and dignified. I stayed until dusk, dozing curled up by the water. Checking my phone revealed multiple missed calls. Randomly selecting one to return, Ethan's voice burned through the speaker. "Where the hell have you been?" I called 20 times. Lujiang Wharf. I answered after processing his anger. "Stay put." He arrived faster than expected, scanning me urgently as he approached. Satisfied I wasn't harmed, his shoulders relaxed. "Why here?" A sneeze interrupted my reply. His scowl deepened as he draped his jacket over me, the same one that had warmed Zoe earlier. Still carrying her perfume, trailing behind him. I shrugged it off. He whirled around at the car door. "Problem?" "Zoe wore this." "Damn right she did." He snapped, rewrapping me with strangely softened eyes. "You'll catch pneumonia otherwise." The heater blasted during our painstakingly slow drive home, Ethan's cautious post-accident driving stretching 5 kilometers into eternity. At his doorstep, he suddenly gripped my wrist, nostrils flaring at the alcohol. "How much?" "1 can." Disbelieving, he pressed a palm to my forehead. "Fever?" Another sneeze triggered a nosebleed. His fingers tightened. "What's happening?" "Just dry air." I cupped my face, crimson dripping between fingers. His worry lingered like the shawl's fringe brushing my trembling wrists. The blood gushed out like a leaky faucet. Ethan's eyes abruptly changed. He tilted Ivy's head back, pinched her nostrils, and rushed to fetch medical cotton balls from the bedroom to stuff into her nose. His gaze remained fixed on her, movements meticulous yet urgent. Gradually, the bleeding subsided, leaving sticky trails of crimson across her face and neck. Ethan returned with a warm towel, carefully wiping away the mess. When the cloth reached her collarbone, his hand momentarily stilled. Ivy tugged his sleeve, pointing to a speckled bloodstain near the elbow. "Got some on you." He shrugged it off, studying her face as his brows began to knit again. "Sneeze-induced nosebleeds? Are you made of glass?" Ivy nodded earnestly. "Constitutionally fragile." "It's the truth." His eyes swept over her. "Have you lost weight?" The question startled her. Had he memorized her measurements? Ethan disappeared into the kitchen, returning with steaming aromatic noodles. He watched like a hawk until she finished every last strand. Her stomach strained against the unaccustomed fullness, leaving her immobilized on the couch. He fetched pajamas and knelt to remove her shoes, strands of hair falling across his eyes. That familiar patience resurfacing. For fleeting seconds, it felt like their early days when he'd stubbornly reformed her picky eating habits after malnutrition scares. Questions burned Ivy's tongue. Why had he chosen this mediocre university over top-tier schools years ago? Was avoiding family drama truly his only reason? Or had he stayed to protect her from navigating college alone? The words dissolved unspoken as his phone rang. Ethan moved aside, voice softening. "Yes. She's found. Some things are fate-bound." Had he not attended the school, he'd never have met Zoe. Though societal pressures eventually drove her to another, their connection clearly endured through the years. "My time's running short. Ethan." The words tasted like ash. "Once we finish this final stretch, you'll be free." Ivy's birthday loomed a month away. Deterioration accelerated, painkillers lost effectiveness while agony multiplied. Logan's recent prognosis confirmed the inevitable. Ivy became Ethan's shadow, badgering incessantly, "Take me to see the aurora. We planned for next year. But I can't wait." Do you know what they symbolize? Eternal luck and happiness for those who witness them. Exasperation finally cracked his resolve. "Fine." "Really?" Her eyes lit up as she threw arms around his neck, brushing lips against his nose. He froze, muscles tensing, yet didn't pull away. Their dynamic shifted palpably. Ethan grew intense, while physical intimacy wasn't novel. His recent fervor bordered on desperation. Setting that aside, Ivy cherished these days. Strip away complicated entanglements, and he remained the devoted brother figure she'd always known. Life's unpredictability struck as planned travels neared. On Ivy's birthday eve shopping trip, skull-splitting pain erupted mid-crosswalk. A delivery e-bike swerved too late. I curled up on the ground, my face deathly pale. The driver panicked and tried to call an ambulance, but I stopped him, dialing Logan instead. He should have been off duty today. Logan arrived swiftly, lifting my trembling body from the pavement into his car before administering a sedative. As the pain subsided, I managed to joke, "When I die, I'll leave half my estate to you. You're more reliable than any boyfriend." He shot me an exasperated look between navigating traffic. "Who wants your money? Then what do you want?" "I don't have much else to offer." After pondering, he grinned. "Cook me dinner." "Truthfully, I only pursued you because of your cooking skills." My laughter died abruptly. All those years cooking for Ethan never made him love me. At the supermarket, I selected ingredients with renewed purpose. Logan lounged against the kitchen doorway until I dragged him in to help prep. Midway through stir-frying shrimp, my phone rang. "What's this about you getting hit by a car?" Ethan's voice held uncharacteristic tension. "Just a minor incident." I deflected, accepting clean shrimp from Logan. The sudden silence told me Ethan had heard. "Logan helped me. I'm cooking at his place now." "Seems you're fine then." He clipped before hanging up. Logan raised an eyebrow at our shared glance. That night, Ethan returned past midnight. I bounded up with reheated milk. "When do we leave for Norway?" "I'll book tickets." He avoided the mug, gaze heavy. "There's an urgent project in London. 6 months minimum." My grip whitened on the ceramic. Previous me would have smiled understandingly. Work always came first. But now? Can we postpone it? "Even if we go to Norway, we won't stay long." The plea shocked us both. "Next year." He compromised. "Stay as long as you want." I nodded numbly. "No, next year." His lips traced my neck later, apology in each touch. When I remained unresponsive, his kisses turned desperate, hands claiming every inch like storing memories for 5 months of separation. At dawn, Zoe waited in the driveway with his luggage. "I'll visit when possible," Ethan said, turning to leave. "No goodbye hug?" I whispered. He hesitated, leaning in until Zoe called. "Sir, we're late." His withdrawal stung more than expected. "Wait for me," he murmured before joining Zoe at the car. I counted out of habit. 1 step. 2 steps. 3 steps, 10 steps. He didn't look back. I used to hope he'd glance over his shoulder at me. Just once. To show he cared. But this time was no different. I slept for hours, waking past midnight. The city lay silent beneath cold moonlight. Ethan texted saying he'd arrived safely in England. I didn't reply. Curling up against the headboard, I realized this was better. Now he'd never know about my illness. Never witness my death. Memories surfaced through the haze. As the sickly child who couldn't handle dust. He'd secretly clean my classroom during chore rotations. When I fell on icy pavement, he carried me home wearing my mittens. That time I had strep throat. He fed me lukewarm congee spoon by spoon. The car accident where he shielded me with his body. Every unkindness subtracted from these accumulated kindnesses. Yet the balance never fully settled. I still loved him. Some memories required mountains of hurt to erase, while others remained indelible. Barefoot, I entered Ethan's study, a forbidden space. Behind dusty shelves lay a sketchbook. Flipping past landscapes, I froze at childish scrawl. I know Ivy has no mom, but I don't like her. Pages rustled. Since she came, Mom and Dad only see her. She gets car sick, so Mom holds her. They cook her favorite foods. Not mine. I had fever for 3 days. Nobody noticed. My chest tightened. He'd been a child robbed of parental love. Expected to embrace the thief. Later entries shifted. She cried over a dead stray kitten. Got snot on my shirt hugging her. Forgot my birthday, but she told the whole class. Teachers sang. So embarrassing. Told her not to call me brother. She won't listen. I'm not her brother. Do older brothers have to give in to their sisters in every way? That's what my parents always said. Does she call every guy her brother? The notebook is mostly filled with drawings. And he only writes about important things occasionally. Today I heard her say to the kitten's grave, "If I don't please him, Aunt and Uncle might send me away." At that moment, I felt an unexpected pang of sadness. My eyes stung. When I was little, I desperately wished Ethan and Mr. and Mrs. Lucas could be a family. My feelings for Ethan were tangled up with this stubborn longing. I wanted a home so badly. But that doesn't mean I didn't truly love him. Ethan rarely kept diaries after reaching adulthood. On the last page was a single sentence: "She thinks I'm drunk." Idiot. Men can't perform when they're wasted. The yellowed pages stuck together. When I peeled apart the second to last page, I found another entry: "Zoe reminds me of myself." We share so many similarities. Even the same stains on our souls. Maybe I should make her my girlfriend. I froze. So in the end, he realized Zoe was his soulmate. The childhood I remembered wasn't the same as his. I'd held him back so much. Picking up a pen, I scrawled on the back of the sketchbook, "I'm sorry." The headaches returned, radiating pain through my entire body. Had the painkillers stopped working? I studied my reflection honestly. Not my best look. The baby fat had completely vanished. Ethan never liked the cute little sister type. Maybe he'd prefer this version. I look old enough to be his aunt. Trembling from pain and barely coherent, I almost called Ethan. My finger hovered over his number. In the end, I didn't press dial. I'm selfish. Full of ugly little schemes. I knew Ethan didn't love me. Yet I forced him to stay through guilt. This time, I'll let go. On my birthday, Ethan kept calling. I watched my phone light up and die repeatedly before finally answering. "Why'd you take so long?" His voice competed with background noise. I fell asleep. I whispered. "Did you eat cake?" "Yeah." "With Mom and Dad?" As if I'd let Mr. and Mrs. Lucas see me like this. I'd lied about traveling to explore the world's other side, claiming I'd be gone for ages. "No." I smiled. "With friends." He paused. "Logan?" Truth was, I hadn't seen Logan in months, though he remained my closest friend. "Yeah." He bought the cake but messed up my age. Said since I'm born earlier. It counts double. So annoying. Ethan made a non-committal noise. "Lately, I've been having constant stomachaches and chest pains so severe I've been writhing on the floor." I wanted to whine pitifully, but my hoarse voice ruined the effect. "Could you please come home soon? I need to see you." Remember the story of the boy who cried wolf? Once when Ethan was about to go on a business trip with Zoe, I threatened suicide if he didn't take me. The night before their departure, I texted that I wouldn't live if left behind. It was just empty words. But he actually believed me. When Ethan rushed over, he found me sitting cross-legged on the floor, playfully dragging a dull steak knife across my wrist. The concern in his eyes instantly froze over. After that incident, any complaint of mine would make Ethan visibly impatient. The more desperately I begged him to return, the more determined he became to stay away. I knew this pattern too well. True to form, his voice turned icy as he said, "Wait until I finish work before hanging up." The hard truth is making Ethan love me proved impossible despite 20 years of effort. But making him despise me? That I've mastered perfectly. Maybe when he hears of my death, the grief will sting less. If he even cares enough to grieve. 1 month later, sitting in a dimly lit bar, I overheard Ethan's friends at the next table gossiping. My black baseball cap pulled low and shadowy corner hid me well. They mentioned my name. Apparently, Ethan wants to break up. Says we're both exhausted from this endless stalemate. I started packing that night: clothes, shoes, toiletries, even those tacky decorations I'd insisted on displaying. Every trace of me vanished from our home. Wouldn't want his new girlfriend finding remnants of us to fight about. Most belongings went to the dumpster. Sold some second-hand, including our mock wedding photos from that whimsical overseas trip with his parents. Used to treasure those framed shots. Now just trash. Only left a giant brown teddy bear on the living room couch, the one I'd bought because it reminded me of Ethan. Pinned a note, "For Zoe." Remember how Ethan chose Zoe that car crash day? When the truck hit, he shielded me from debris but got trapped himself. Glass shards pierced my thighs, yet I felt nothing, body numbed by shock. Behind us, Zoe's pained moans made him wrench open her door with a broken arm, carrying her to safety before tending to me. Now seeing Ethan exit a taxi outside our old apartment, panic turned me ghostly pale. Couldn't let him witness what I've become. He somehow sensed my stare, turning as I fled awkwardly. In my new rented studio, relief lasted until his call came. He'd found the emptied home. Steeling myself, I answered, "Hello?" Ethan's cool voice came through the phone. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. He repeated, this time with an edge of authority. "Where are you?" My thoughts tangled as I fabricated an excuse. "I'm traveling." He scoffed. "Traveling requires emptying your belongings? I thought we'd been robbed. What's your game?" "I want to live independently." I heard his sharp inhale. When he spoke again, irritation bled through the line. "I'll ask once more, where are you?" Gripping my phone, I said, "Let's break up." Silence answered. I ended the call. 2 nights later, I returned to the old villa. The giant stuffed bear I'd left behind sat abandoned in the rain-soaked yard, grimy and forlorn. Ethan's pride would never tolerate this treatment. Stroking the bear's matted ear, I hauled it away, an absurd struggle wrestling the soggy mass into a taxi's backseat. Part of me hoped he and Zoe might occasionally miss my presence. Another part wished he'd forget me entirely. Would he yearn for my cooking, my voice, my annoying daily routines if I disappeared? My rapid weight loss suggested I'd soon resemble Logan's grim prognosis. With euthanasia illegal here but Switzerland's unfamiliarity daunting, my failing body couldn't withstand international travel. Logan offered to accompany me, compassion shadowing his eyes. Tilting my head, I asked, "Wouldn't escorting me to death haunt your dreams?" After prolonged consideration, I chose the sea. Ethan always preferred meandering streams and tranquil lakes over the ocean's vast mystery. How fitting to die where he'd never linger, sparing him future melancholy. Though Logan refused, I bequeathed him half my modest estate in the will. His friendship and medical care deserved more than I could repay. The video message for his parents became me a handwritten letter instead, finally addressing them as mom and dad like I'd always yearned to. Salt wind howled as I scrolled social media. There they were, Ethan and Zoe watching fireworks. She'd once confided childhood fireworks carried her purest wishes. The night sky exploded in kaleidoscopic blooms, raining shimmering trails like vibrant life itself. Leaving my phone on a rock, I plunged into the churning waves. Logan's perspective. When I informed Ethan of Ivy's death, he frowned dismissively. Enough with the tasteless jokes. Mr. Lucas. This isn't a prank. I extended Ivy's sealed letter. For your parents. He didn't take it. Didn't glance down. What melodrama is she concocting now? I chuckled inwardly. Ethan. Ivy's body has been discovered by the police. You can visit the morgue for identification. I turned to leave without waiting for his reaction. 7 days after Ivy's death, Ethan returned from abroad. His parents had reported her disappearance when they couldn't reach her. The police traced the case to me, and I disclosed everything. Around the same time, I received Ivy's timed email she'd written about leaving this world. Asked me not to dwell on missing her. Then shared her apartment passcode so I could deliver her suicide note to her aunt and uncle. She'd compiled detailed recipes for me, explaining I could recreate her dishes whenever craving struck. The fridge still held her homemade pickled peppers and kimchi. Enough to last months. Her prolonged silence had prepared me for this. She'd chosen the most ordinary day to depart without telling anyone. Not even me. We met during my medical school days. I frequented her campus cafeteria daily for their egg and bean sprout stir-fry, always eating alone due to my picky eating habits. She noticed my routine, watching curiously until the day her bike broke down. I fixed it casually, sparking our friendship. Convinced I was destitute surviving on one meal daily, she'd order extra meat dishes, pretending fullness to share with me. I played along, amused by her charades. Later, she started bringing grocery bags of snacks and fruits weekly, claiming dorm mates needed help finishing their unwanted items. Eventually I wore head-to-toe designer clothes and carried a Prada triangle bag to our meeting. She studied my outfit carefully, pointing at the bag. That looks like, her voice trailed off, clearly suspecting a knockoff but complimenting it to spare my feelings. I nearly laughed aloud. Even in death, she left me half her inheritance. Seeing the bank deposit figure, I laughed until collapsing on the floor, hands pressed against my damp eyes. Ethan must have identified the body. He emerged from the morgue white-knuckled and dazed. As a medical professional, I know how waterlogged corpses appear, an image that'll haunt him forever. The police handed him the phone recovered from River Rocks, still faintly charged. He guessed the lock screen password instantly, the death date of her childhood cat. Many of her passwords used her mother's birthday too. This girl clung to sentimental dates with heartbreaking intensity, perhaps because she'd lost her mother young. She often told me to cherish family, considering even that cat as kin. Once, she called me family too. Foolish girl. The illuminated screen displayed Ethan's social media post, him watching fireworks with Zoe in England. All romantic perfection. This was Ivy's final sight before dying. What did she feel in that moment? Ethan turned ashen. Days later, he confronted me abruptly. When did she discover the illness? The day you proposed. His eyelids twitched. The proposal day? Yes. I leaned back in my chair, studying him intently. But you said you never wanted to marry her, it was all your parents' idea. His eyes reddened instantly as if he'd grasped some terrible truth. That's why. Why what? I scoffed. Why she was so miserable then? He looked haggard, having lost significant weight recently. With a choked voice bordering on pleading, he asked, was she in much pain during her final days? I maintained my professional smile. Ethan. She had brain cancer. Late-stage patients experience severe headaches, dizziness, constant nausea, and frequent vomiting. Her vision deteriorated, she kept falling when living alone. After metastasis, she couldn't even pinpoint where it hurt because every inch of her body was screaming. The suffering became unbearable. Hence the suicide. She wanted me to tell you it was quick. My smile turned cruel. But I couldn't let you stay ignorant. Ethan, where were you when this happened? Watching fireworks with Zoe? Oh, remember that time you three went out? She had a sudden nosebleed during dinner but hid in the restroom until it passed so she wouldn't ruin your date. She called me that day, I missed it too. Ethan jerked his head up, shock flooding his features. Though clearly, I continued, you were more concerned about Miss Zhao's sniffles. The color drained from his face completely. A nurse knocked. Dr. Logan? A patient's family needs you. I walked past his frozen form. Outside stood Mr. and Mrs. Lucas. The older woman's eyes were swollen from crying, leaning heavily on her husband. You were Ivy's doctor and friend. Mrs. Lucas trembled, reaching for me. Why didn't she tell us? I steadied her. Please, Mrs. Lucas. She didn't want you to see her deteriorate. Modern medicine spared her worst suffering, she chose the sea over tubes and monitors. The ocean always comforted her. Mr. Lucas rasped. Is that true? I nodded. She wanted you to remember her vibrant and healthy. She called me that morning. Mrs. Lucas collapsed onto a bench. Weeping. Reminded me about my blood pressure meds. Made her uncle promise to stop me from drinking. I didn't notice anything wrong. Ethan stood apart. The only other person who knew the brutal truth. His agony mirrored mine. 1 month after Ivy's death. I often forgot she was gone. Waking in our bed, I'd automatically reach to push her legs off me, only to grasp empty sheets. The realization crashed anew each dawn. During her final weeks, she'd stopped clinging to me in sleep. After 7 days, numbness lifted. I abandoned the UK project, my parents needed care. Their grief all-consuming. The house we'd shared got listed, though there was nothing left to avoid. She'd scrubbed every trace of herself except that ridiculous stuffed bear. For Zoe. The note read. She'd once joked I resembled this dopey toy. Was this her parting shot, gifting me to Zoe? I hurled it into the yard, furious for reasons I couldn't name. At dinner, Mother suddenly proposed. Let's visit where she, you know. Tears welled again. I keep dreaming of that beach, maybe she's waiting. Both parents turned to me expectantly. I served her more vegetables. I'll arrange a driver. Aren't you coming? Her plea hung heavy. I said nothing. The fish on my plate growing cold. It was just an ocean. And I've always had thalassophobia anyway. Dad nodded. Ethan was even afraid to visit the aquarium as a child. Let's go. The TV showed news about stunning northern lights in Canada. The night sky resembling spilled fluorescent green paint shifting unpredictably. I looked away, clearing dishes into the sink as the faucet ran. Mom brought back a seashell from the beach, placing it by her bedside. Dad said she'd been calling Ivy's name when the waves delivered that shell to her feet as if it were Ivy's parting gift. Life continued otherwise unchanged. Zoe coughed during the meeting. I looked up. Leave. The room froze. She stammered an apology before rushing out. When I found her crying in the break room, I wordlessly handed her coffee. Maintain professionalism. Her trembling fingers grasped the mug. Thank you, boss. As I turned to leave, she choked out. It's not about the meeting. I just remembered the last time I spoke with Ivy. She bought me cough medicine. She must have been in pain too that day. Did you know? After the crash, when you pulled me from the wreckage first, Ivy's expression, it was this particular heartbreak only women understand. She thought you chose to save me. My mind flashed to the accident, Ivy's legs trapped under crumpled metal. Face ghostly pale. Zoe's whimpers from the back seat. I'd stabilized Zoe first. Her fingers clawing my shirt until I calmed her. Asked bystanders to call 911 before checking on Ivy. Tried lowering the driver's seat to free her legs. But the mechanism jammed. Could only pick glass shards from her wounds while waiting for rescue. She who feared paper cuts stayed silent, worrying about my fractured arm instead. Yet at the hospital, she cried to Logan about the pain. That's when I realized she trusted him more. Zoe whispered, "You pulled me out first to clear space for her, right?" I didn't answer. That night, my phone showed an article, "How Painful is Drowning." Commenters described seawater burning lungs. Desperate regret. I closed it. Insomnia struck. I cooked elaborate meals. Ironed every crease. Mom teared up tasting my dishes. "This tastes like Ivy's cooking." The braised pork flooded my mouth with familiar flavors. Awakening buried memories. I'd never cooked before. Why replicate her recipes perfectly? Later, the realtor said buyers wanted the house. Our empty villa echoed no quirky wall art. No plush toys. Balcony plants gone. Even our faux wedding photo from that Paris trip vanished. Standing in the sterile space, I desperately searched for traces of her existence. There wasn't a single trace left. Frantically searching every corner yielded nothing. "Where's the bear?" I stumbled toward the backyard's edge only to find it gone too, probably discarded by sanitation workers. The last remnant Ivy had left me had vanished. Returning home, I spread every garment she'd ever bought me across the bed like patchwork memories before collapsing onto them. Sleep claimed me without warning. My ears faintly registering phantom breaths as soft as a kitten's. This slumber stretched endlessly until door hinges creaked. Footsteps. I bolted downstairs. Pulse hammering. The sight froze my blood. It was just the real estate agent with clients. "Mr. Ethan." He beamed awkwardly. Perfect timing to meet the new owners. I pressed palms over stinging eyes. "The house isn't for sale." Logan's office reeked of disinfectant. When I demanded Ivy's final residence, he leaned back with feline satisfaction. "Bought it myself last month." Rising, he circled me like a vulture. "You want her journals? Her last thoughts?" "Not happening." Our gazes locked. "I envy you," I admitted hoarsely. "You always knew her better. When she bled, it was your number she dialed." His laughter cracked like ice. "Because you failed her, Ethan." The mansion's hollow silence now mocked me. Memories flooded back, mother orchestrating our engagement after disapproving Zoe. Ivy trembling that rain-slicked night when she'd unbuttoned my shirt with clumsy fingers. Our disastrous proposal, her panicked eyes searching mine for non-existent affection. "We don't have to do this," I'd said, not realizing those words would become our epitaph. The sketchbook hidden behind legal files shocked me. Childhood drawings bled into teenage scrawls, every page haunted by her. Then, fresh ink on the back cover, "I'm sorry." Ivy's handwriting. My hands shook. Did she find this? Was this why she? Since childhood, I was conditioned to meet societal expectations. That's why even when I felt Ivy had stolen my family's affection after being adopted, I forced myself to play the role of devoted older brother caring for her while secretly resenting her existence. My parents forbade me from showing anger or self-interest. As a child, merely breaking a toy would earn me their disappointed stares. Meeting Zoe felt like finding my mirror image. With her mother favoring her leukemia-stricken brother, Zoe had willingly become a married man's mistress to fund his treatments. I caught her whispering better off dead after hanging up with family. That fleeting hatred transformed into panic when she noticed me. After her brother's death ended that arrangement, our school became flooded with hotel photos of her and the older man. When she claimed he was her uncle, no one believed the disgraced girl, not even when rumors falsely linked us romantically. My mother's furious accusations finally broke me. when she declared she'd rather see me with Ivy. I laughed coldly. Marry her yourself then. The slap that followed still burns. Ivy trailed behind me afterward, trembling with unspoken words. How could my distant parents know about Zoe? I glared at her. Only know how to weaponize my parents? Her frantic denials proved true. It had been a family friend professor. Yet I never apologized. By then, I couldn't bear seeing her. The medical student Logan changed everything. Suddenly Ivy brought him snacks. Ate lunch with him daily. Even asked about men's razors. When I saw her gift him that razor with fresh fruit, playfully stroking her chin to tease about grooming. Unexpected fury overwhelmed me. The resentment I'd nurtured was crumbling. Since the night she hugged me crying over her dead cat, I'd secretly cherished her as my only refuge in that suffocating household. But my stubborn posturing never faltered. Until her last breath. She believed I hated her. Until her final moments. She thought I loved Zoe. When she wrote those 4 words in her diary, what storm raged in her heart? Now every hidden pain, every cruel word I'd uttered, every moment she endured cancer's agony alone comes crashing over me. Kneeling on the beach where I scattered her ashes, I clutch her journal and weep like a child. The sea I've feared since nearly drowning at 6 now licks at my shoes. Its briny wind churning nausea through me. Her final sight had been my firework post meant to substitute northern lights she'd longed to see. But Zoe's likes made it our romantic gesture in her eyes. As waves tug me deeper, I wonder if these same currents witnessed her last breath. 1 step. 2. The ocean that took her whispers of endings and beginnings. As the sea level crept closer, a phone call jolted me awake. By the time I regained my senses, seawater already reached my waist. I grabbed my phone. Mom. Everything okay? I answered, muffling the receiver to hide the wind and waves. Her voice sounded weary. The seashell necklace fell while I was napping. Woke me right up. Just wanted to check in. When are you coming home? Any dinner requests? Seashell? My throat tightened. She still needed me. They all did. Is that the ocean? Her suspicion crackled through the line. No. I rasped. Leaving now. Days later, another call came. Ethan? It's me. The voice hesitated. We were at the pub, might have seen Ivy. She looked skeletal. Barely recognizable. We got wasted. Started rambling about you. That idiot Jake repeated your drunken rant from London how you were tired of the relationship. Fed up, she left in tears. After hearing about her passing, I had to tell you. The phone slipped from my hand. So that's why she left. She never knew I'd flown back to propose. Fed up? Yes. Fed up with choking on jealousy whenever she mentioned Logan. Fed up with our hollow performance as lovers. Fed up watching us bleed each other dry. I wanted to ask her to marry me in England. But she'd already cleared her apartment and ended things. I always assumed she loved Logan. Their decade-long friendship would have become more, if not for my family's interference. When she left, I thought she'd run to him. Only now do I see how thoroughly I'd failed her. That time Zoe caught cold. I gave her my jacket. I saw the hurt flash in Ivy's eyes but pretended not to. Jealousy burned bitter when she leaned on my arm after watching basketball games I could no longer play. Weak knees again? I'd sneered. She used to fake illnesses as a child to get attention. But after that suicide scare years ago, she never joked about health again. While I tended Zoe's sniffles, Ivy hid her cancer pain alone. Logan was right. I didn't deserve her. Not even the right to join her in death. Her final letter mentioned everyone, except me. The ultimate punishment from the woman I destroyed.